This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the CEO of Power Nickel, Mr. Terry Lynch. Terry, great to have you back on. There's a lot going on. Let's get right into it. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Gerardo. Always a pleasure to get back on the air with you.
Well, listen, you just announced some really solid final drill results from the fall 2022 drill program and initial results from the winter 2023 program. I want to talk about the results and I want to talk about the project. It's near, I should say, James Bay. We know that James Bay is becoming a major center for attracting capital. The government has been incredibly supportive in Quebec of mining and wanting to expedite its permitting. And there's been some news recently that I think we chatted a bit off air, kind of flew really under the radar. And so I want to start there, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. No. Let's start there. I mean, we were chatting offline. I was saying that I like the market has not noticed that about 3 weeks ago the federal budget in Canada and the provincial budget in Quebec came down, and the major planks of those budgets, really one of the major planks in both of them, was in the federal budget. They're going to provide a 30% tax credit to build the mine and mine equipment, and the Quebec budget up to 25%. So just think overnight, like up to 55% of a mine cost is going to be paid for by the government. That's unheard of. Like with a bankable feasibility study, you can finance the mine with 30% equity. So now you got 50% equity. So like honestly, for companies like Power Nickel, who trade, I don't know, our market cap is 25 million, something like that US. Our mine, to build a mine that is sort of a high-end nickel mine would cost 400 million. You can build a base level one for 225. That just makes nickel matte and condensate. What you want is to get into the powders, anodes, and wire business. That's really where the battery stuff is, and that's where the high margins are. That's a $400 million thing. So somebody's just said, hey, Power Nickel, by the way, if you make it to be in a mine, you're going to get $200 million. Hello. I mean, we're trading at 20. It's like, that's ridiculous. And like, it did move the stock. Stock's actually come down since then, even on great news, but we'll talk to that later. But generally speaking, that's not just applying to Power Nickel, but people like Critical Elements, Nouveau Monde Graphics, anybody who's building a critical mineral mine in Quebec is eligible for these grants and tax credits. So that's just staggering. And honestly, they're all off since then, so it's like, I don't know. Nobody's translated it to the investors yet, Gerardo, is my view. And it is a budget sort of pitch. It's not law yet, but when it's your major plank and it's overwhelmingly positively received by the public, chances of that not happening are slim and none, really. But until it's done, it's not done. But that would be the one risk. But I mean, generally speaking, I mean, it's amazing. It should be definitely trading at some premium because of that.
No, look, if finalized, and I think you used the right word, premium, if that is finalized, I can see mid-tiers and majors really willing to pay a significant premium for quality deposits and projects that are being built in the region, for the simple fact that a lot of the cost will be offset, right? So I definitely thought it was important to touch on that point. Definitely something to keep an eye on. And look, you have a new discovery 800 meters east of the main zone. You also had some good numbers. You mentioned the stock selling off a bit. If you believe that nickel demand will continue to be what everybody expects it to be, I think it's a heck of an opportunity in the stock. You want to speak to the results here recently?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the results were basically, another great intersection, like 16 meters of, north of 1.5% nickel EQ. I mean, that's a great nickel intercept. There's just not many like that in the world today. And that that follows our 10 meters of almost 3% and 40 meters of 1.6%. So we've been like, this is not just, one and done. Every assay we release, we're putting out some big intersections. And like I said to people in the release, I said, what we have here is a river of nickel, okay, that we've currently got, and it's about 1 kilometer long, okay? And when you're testing the river of nickel, you're hoping the river is as wide as possible and as deep as possible and as cloudy as possible, cloudy being the grade. Now, of course, the river doesn't always cooperate, right? Sometimes it turns and you miss the river. Sometimes it's a bit narrower than you'd like. But then, that's what exploration drilling is all about, is basically testing those parameters. So we're testing those parameters. But in each case, we're finding major intersections with high grade. Of course, now we're trying to figure out, well, how wide is it at that intersection? Okay, so because we already know how deep it's going to be, so that's what you're trying to do. You can go left and you can go right on that, and then that's ultimately you're going to get to your true width. So we see a pathway just within our internal modeling that we're going to be able to, when we update our 43-101, we're going to go between 8 to 10 million tons is our feeling of 1.5% nickel. Now that 50,000 contained nickel tons, you'd be a mine today. That's going to be over 100,000, and we're not done yet because honestly, this is an ultramafic deposit. The last two ultramafic deposits of consequence in Canada were Lynn Lake, 22 million tons, and Voisey's Bay, which is over 50. We're going to be in that mix. We're going to be between 20 and 50 million tons. I'm predicting that right now. And that's going to make us $1 billion deal. And here we are, $20 million. And it's not like we're hoping to find something. We bloody found it. So it's like, holy shit, man. It's like, and we got the money now. We're not raising. So financing risk is off the table. We got the cash. We're funded, to do our next leg of exploration, which is, we're pretty much finished on the main thing. What we're doing now, the next thing, we just finished an airborne EM, which for nickel massive sulfides, electromagnetic is really good because it catches, because obviously massive sulfide is highly magnetic. So this catches this magnetic signal. So that's been really good. We picked up on that. We'll be releasing the results of that probably in the month of May. And it looks super exciting for this 5.5 kilometer section of the ultramafic that we've mapped so far. We've only drilled on 1 kilometer. So there's a lot more to explore. So we're really pumped about that. And then the other thing we're doing is, I can't remember when we talked last time, if I had talked about the fleet technologies, the ambient noise tomography. Did we talk about that?
We touched on it a bit, but I think it's worth revisiting.
Yeah. Okay. So it's basically sound mapping, and so they'll do that first over our existing deposits, so they can very easily correlate, what they're seeing, what we know is scientifically there because of the drill bit, and then they do this sonar pulse into the ground, comes back as a sound map, allows them to correlate those images, so you can get a real-time vision of that deposit within like 4 days of them being on site. And what's good about that, if you saw in the release, we sort of showed the map of the river, and it's quite a squiggly, like rivers are, very windy and turny, and it doesn't go in a straight line, So you have to be aware of where these turns are, because that's where big chunks of the deposit are, and obviously sometimes they're not where the geologists think they are. But this technology will help us find more turns if we've missed them, so we can add some more to our current obviously deposit. And then the other thing it does is it creates a signature of where we know that this is good rock. And then we can look both below this current deposit, because often nickel is stacked. So there could easily be a layer or two of rivers of nickel underneath this that we could go down and find, target it. And then, of course, we're only working on the 1 kilometer of this 5.5 kilometer sequence. So we're going to obviously check out the rest of that. And then we got a 45 square kilometer package that we're going to do it on. So, it's, like I said at the outset, nickel sulfide mines never come in one pot in the history of the world. We've got one pot now that's going to make us commercial, but we're going to find other pots. So this thing is going to be, in my mind, it's going to be big. So it's like, yet you're buying it for 1/6 to 1/20th of the comparable price of other nickel sulfide deposits. So it's like, it's a Gerardo Del Real deal.
You mentioned it being wanting to turn this into a $1 billion deal. You mentioned the market cap at 20 million. There's a whole heck of a lot of runway between 20 million and $1 billion valuation. Look, if you're halfway right, there's a whole lot of runway here. Terry, it's always great to have you on. I'm looking forward to having you back on here soon, and definitely looking forward to more results.
But, yeah, and you know what's good, Gerardo? Between the next 2 months, there's going to be releases almost every 2 weeks. It's like we've got more assays. We've got the spin out that's going to happen. We've got the airborne technology, the fleet, and there's a big surprise coming that's going to be super positive. So anyway, it's a great time to be looking. Trust me.
A lot to keep an eye on. Definitely worth the due diligence. I encourage everybody to take a peek at, projected nickel demand. Obviously, James Bay is on fire as a destination, as I mentioned up top, for new capital, for exploration, for big, massive, large scale discoveries. And you seem to have the goods. You seem to be confident about what the future holds, Terry. I love to hear that. Looking forward to having you back on and seeing how that shapes out.
Yeah, that sounds good, Gerardo. And just as a note, the confidence is real. The biggest investor in the last 2 rounds, you're talking to them. So our big 5 shareholders have each put in, each the last 2 rounds were like 70% of the round. So the core shareholders who know the most are investing the most. That's a good sign.
It's a great sign when the management and insiders eat their own cooking. Terry, great to have you on again. Chat soon.
Okay. Thanks, Gerardo.
All right. Cheers. Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.